The charge faced by the defendant is one of attempted murder. The victim of that offence is her 70-year-old husband, Jeff. You will hear how, on Monday, the 13th of April, Yasmeen attacked Jeff with a bottle of wine. First, by hitting him across the head, and then, when the bottle had broken, by using the shard to stab him in the throat.
The backbone of the case for the defence is coercive control. For those of you not familiar with the term, coercive control is an act or pattern of acts of assault, threats, humiliation, and intimidation. And Mr. Metcalfe's controlling behaviour was designed to harm, punish, belittle, and keep his wife in a constant state of fear.
You're going to hear about escorts. You're going to hear about a man who clearly made a lot of mistakes in his marriage. But you don't have to like him. You just have to believe that he wasn't a threat to his out-of-control wife.
He isolated her from her friends and family. He exploited her. He denied her any sense of independence. And he regulated her behaviour every moment of every day until she was terrified for her own life.
Mr. Metcalfe's not proud of himself. But he's not the one on trial here. And none of his behaviour justifies such a vicious, brutal attack. He's extremely lucky to be alive.
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Can you state your name for the court, please?
Jeffrey Metcalfe.
Can I ask you to describe your relationship with your wife?
Good, to begin with. Or I thought it was. I'm sorry, I'm a bit...
It's fine. Take your time.
She's an alcoholic. Her relationship with drink is the only thing she really cares about.
Were there any other problems in your marriage?
We had our ups and downs like everybody else. I'm sure she'll tell you that I'm a bit old-fashioned and regimented. We'd have our tea at 5 o'clock, a little bit of toast for supper at about 9, and generally be in bed by 11. But you see, you've got to have some sort of structure to your day when you're living with an alcoholic. I was trying to help her. But people have got to want to change, haven't they? After a while, I gave up trying. Anything to stop her from blowing her top.
Blowing her top? Can you elaborate on that?
I'm ashamed to admit this, but I was scared of her. When you look at her now, you wouldn't think she'd say boo to a goose, but when she's got a drink inside her, it's a different story. I was just trying to be a good husband. But it was never enough. I'm sorry, I still get thinking about it.
That's okay. Take your time.
The argument was my fault. I admit that. Doing what I did, the escorts, was unforgivable. The biggest mistake of my life.
You admitted that to her?
Well, that's all I said. How sorry I was. I knew I was weak and I'd hurt her. So that night, I resisted arguing back. And she was spoiling for a fight. Not that I blamed her, but by that stage in our relationship, we were arguing a lot. Especially when she'd been drinking.
Had she been drinking that night?
No. Oh, because of her problem, she was trying to stay sober. But she wanted one, and I wouldn't let her. So then we did argue. I begged her, but she wouldn't listen. She went to get the bottle, and I came over to her, and she hit me with it.
When you went to her, were you holding anything?
No. No, I'd been cutting some bread a couple of minutes before, but I'd put the knife down.
And while you were arguing, were you holding the knife then?
We were probably arguing when I was cutting the bread, yes. But I cut it, then put it down.
Did you, at any time, wave the knife around aggressively?
No, absolutely not.
Perhaps use it to gesture with, as one uses their hands to punctuate a point, as I am doing now with this pen, for example.
No, I'm pretty sure I didn't. I only cut a couple of slices, so I was holding the knife for seconds, 10 to 15 seconds max.
So, despite your protestations, she went to the bottle. What happened next?
I went over to her. I wouldn't have stopped her physically. I was just trying to persuade her, protect her from herself.
And then what happened?
She hit me. I remember feeling the pain, hearing the bottle smash. But I don't remember much after that. Apart from the look in her eye when she lunged at me for a second time with the broken bottle. No, I'd seen her lose it before on the booze, but nothing like that. I'm sorry.
Would you say that you were a good husband, Mr. Metcalf?
Yes, for the most part. I loved her. Did what I could to make her happy.
And the escorts?
That was a terrible moment of weakness.
Moments, plural. It happened more than once. With more than one escort?
Yes, I was weak.
How many times?
I don't know.
15, 20?
I think 5 or 6.
With different escorts?
I saw one 3 times.
And when you say saw...
Slept with. So, no, you're right, of course. I wasn't a good husband. I cheated on her. I betrayed her.
But your infidelity and use of sex workers aside...
I know what you want me to say. That aside that, I was a good husband. But there is no aside that, is there? So you're right. That makes me a bad husband. There's no getting past that.
And were you a good husband to your first wife, Philippa Metcalf?
No, things were different with Philippa. She had mental issues. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's the right term.
Things were different. Did you use escorts while you were with her?
No.
Give her an STI?
No, I was faithful.
Until her death. Mr. Metcalf?
I was faithful in our marriage.
That's not what I asked. Is Philippa Metcalf dead? Like you told the police? And your son?
I thought she was. I'd heard that she died, but then a few months back, this woman turned up out of the blue and...
Elaine Jones?
Yes, and said she was Philippa. Then she disappeared again.
Surely you'd be able to tell whether it was her or not. And even if you couldn't, I'm sure you have a photo somewhere of your wedding, perhaps?
No, I was too upset at the time. I destroyed them.
Right. So nobody has a photo of your wedding? Friends? Family? Local paper, perhaps? You see, I'm pretty sure that at least one photo of Philippa exists. So then the whole court could see...
I think it was her.
Then why did you lie to the police and say that it wasn't? Why did you lie to your son about who his mother really was?
I was trying to protect him, okay? Like I said, Philippa had problems. She was off her head. She probably still is. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, isn't it a coincidence, Mr. Metcalf? You've had 2 crazy wives. Well, that's not my fault, is it? That is not my fault. I'm looking for position on the pick. If he could on that bed.
Dude, first day over, and well, you slayed it. I'm buzzing, man. Hey, the way that you were all, that's not what I asked, Mr. Metcalf.
And that's not all. I've just been to visit Elaine in the hospital.
Yeah?
Tim actually managed to convince her she's going to be coming in and giving evidence.
Flipping yes! That's huge.
Yep.
If the jury is how he's treated her, they have to believe Yasmeen. We've got him, mate. We've got him.